Alright everyone, welcome to episode 43 of the Performance Advantage podcast. This week we've got an incredible interview with Red Bull sponsored pro ultra runner Tom Evans. He's in town for the Tarawera Ultra this weekend, so I went around, sat down with him, and we had a bit of a yarn about, well, a whole bunch of stuff. It's a really good interview. Matt's away on a cruise with his family, so no update from him, but I'm going to give a bit of a rundown on how I'm feeling before my race with Tarawera this weekend. We also have our giveaway from last week, so announcing the winner at the end of the show. Stay tuned for that, but let's get into it. Alright, Will's training update. So in a few days I have the Tarawera Ultra 100k, which is part of the Ultra Trail World Series, and it'll be my first real experience and test at the elite level. I've done all of my trail running around New Zealand in some very competitive fields, but nowhere near the caliber where we've got here in Rotorua this weekend. We've got the likes of Zach Bitter, who's the 100-mile world record holder, Sage Kennedy, who is he's won here twice. He's won races all around the world, 2:16 marathoner. Got Tom Evans, who we're interviewing today, and just a really deep competitive international field. So along with being super excited about being able to test myself, I'm also very anxious about my performance. I'd hate to not execute to my abilities and get a real accurate measure of what I can do compared to the best in the world. But then also, I'm quite worried that I do have the race of my life and I execute everything as good as possible, but I'm still a fair way back. And so a fair way back for me, I think, would be an hour plus from these guys, because what I'd really like to achieve over the next, I guess, year to 2 years, 2021, would be to be at a competitive level. I still have a fair way to go in terms of, being able to win major races, but being able to get sponsorship and get help to attend some of these races around the world as an elite requires like a certain level of performance within these races. So I'd love to be able to do that alongside my coaching and my YouTube channel, to share that experience of trying to make it in the sport of trail running. I think that'd be amazing. So in terms of training, like, everything has pretty much gone to plan. I mean, it's been exceptionally hard this last few weeks because, I became a dad 8 weeks ago. And so we've had to, adapt our lives around that, and sleepless nights, not too bad really, but definitely a lot of broken sleep, a lot of later nights going to bed, a lot of earlier mornings, a lot less downtime, a lot less flexibility than I'm used to. So that's been a bit hard to adapt to. But in terms of everything, like in how it fits in the whole picture of my build up for this race, it's gone exceptionally well. So I can't really say that I haven't done what I've needed to get myself on the start line in the best possible shape that I can be, as prepared as I can be. So in terms of that, like, that's all I can do. And now I just need to I just need to make sure I do what I can on the day to try and execute. So I'm not sure if they'll have live timing for you guys to be able to follow. I'll see if I can get someone to share on Instagram and Facebook stories to check out how I'm going. But I'll be updating next week, and also follow my YouTube channel because I'll do a quick update on that post race. We got a couple people following me around. So that's my quick update. Now I want to get into the interview because it's a real good one. So Tom Evans started ultra running really in 2017, so just a few years ago, which makes his story pretty incredible. He came third in the 250k Desert Ultramarathon, Marathon des Sables, and that was off the back of just a bet that he made after a few beers with his mates who had already done the race. Tom ended up placing third on that race, which was the best ever result by any European, first white man on the podium. And that was kind of like for Tom and also some of his sponsors and supporters, really made a name for himself. And then he went on and won the 100k CCC race as part of the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc series in Chamonix, which is kind of the pinnacle of trail running in the trail running world. So once he got to that level, that kind of put him in world-class status. He was in the British Army as a captain at the time, and he recently left, so sort of halfway through last year, to become a professional. So, and this guy is quick. After just really getting into running, he's got a 5k PB of 14:40, 10k 29:40, half marathon 1:05, low 2:20s for a marathon. So this guy is lightning quick, and I really talked to him about what he does in training, because he is an animal, runs 200k's plus each and every week. He also is really active on social media. He's sponsored by Red Bull, Adidas, Oakley, Garmin. He's got the big brands behind him. So yeah, we talk about a lot of things about what he does to get himself to the peak of his performance, what he thinks of the state of trail running and everything. So yeah, I'm going to put him on and enjoy, because it is a really good interview, and I know you'll love it. All right, Tom, welcome to Rotorua.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a big change to the UK, so yeah, loving it.
And happy birthday, I hear.
Thank you very much.
I don't hear. I checked on Instagram.
It is official in New Zealand and also in the UK now. It's my birthday morning, but it's been a fun one. Like having a military background, I've been away for a lot of birthdays, but I've never had a birthday at the beginning of a race week that everything, you're trying to sort of get everything dialed in, but then it's gonna be the first birthday that I haven't ever had a birthday cake. That's pretty depressing.
I'm sure there'll be like sugar-free, low-carb cake that we could.
Oh, see, I've just got zero interest in that.
Yeah,
I've just got no. You're gonna do it properly.
Yes,
on
the same. But well, how are you finding Rotorua? First off, you've been here a couple of weeks, right? We went for a run 2 weeks ago almost now.
Yeah.
And that was just when you first landed.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Obviously it's a long way to travel for a race. We were just saying, I left on Saturday morning in the UK and arrived here on the Monday evening. So it takes a long time to get here, 13-hour time difference. So the first couple of days you're pretty knackered, you don't know if you're coming or you're going, and especially travelling now, it's UK winter. I haven't run in shorts and a t-shirt for a long time, let alone run topless. And you don't want to do the classic British thing and get a sort of vest tan line or burn on day one. So yeah,
that's pretty much what you did though.
Yeah, which is exactly what I did. You've got to live up to all stereotypes.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. So difficult traveling when you're traveling for a race, and there are so many different things that you want to go and do, but at the end of the day, you're still here for a race. It's all, as a full-time athlete, the race is the pinnacle of it. I can have an amazing trip to New Zealand, but if the race doesn't go well, it's so difficult because you still had an amazing time, but you haven't done your job very well. So yeah, it's a really difficult one, and just getting getting the balance. And I think endurance athletes suck at balance with everything, like time management, money, everything. Like you just loves, everyone loves spending stuff, and you're getting balance out here as a tourist who actually wants to go see loads of stuff, wants to run loads, and I've explored good parts of trail, and there are so many more trails that I want to go and run. And it's made me think about sort of doing other races out here that allow you to see more of the country, like coast to coast, for example.
You do that. Have you done stuff like that?
Not like full on adventure.
It's the same day.
Yeah, it's the same day. Yeah.
Ironman.
Yes, you could do an Ironman.
You'd stick around for that. That's good timing. There's a couple guys. There's a guy an hour race. Oh, do you know Simon Cochran? I saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Carl Reed, he's doing the 100 miler. They're doing both. And I don't know about that, but you could if you wanted to come next year. And
yeah, I think it's so like training is training. Like endurance training is endurance training, and I'm sure we'll get into training a lot more. But it's the same. It is load on your body for a prolonged period of time. It's what endurance is, to endure something.
Yeah.
Like if you had to sort of pick certain markers, sort of what does endurance mean? Like, is endurance a 10,000 meter runner, or is endurance Sir Ranulph Fiennes walking a solo across Antarctica? You're still enduring something. And yeah, it's really interesting. I actually think that a lot of these sports, yes, it's on a direct crossover and you would need to do some specific training, but actually, if you've got that foundation, if you've got those building blocks, then yeah, you can step across and do different disciplines.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that sort of frustrates me with sports is that people say like, oh yeah, I'm a road runner, or I'm a track runner, or I'm a trail runner. It's like, no, I'm just a runner. I can just do a bit of everything. Because it all plays part. And like, yes, you can't be the best at everything, but dabble in things that excite you and things that you enjoy. And actually, if one of the reasons why like being a professional athlete is so cool, because you get to travel the world, and a lot of these, certainly with like the Ultra Trail World Tour and with trail running, fun enough, all the majority of the places that the races are amazing places that you would want to go and see anyway. And for me, like, running is just such a great way to see it, because not only do you see the trails and you see the amazing landscapes around it, like you actually get to meet people who share a common interest. Like running is running, whether you're running in the UK or in New Zealand or in India or in Ethiopia. Even if you don't speak the same language, like I've done 2.5 hour long runs with a group of 15 Ethiopian runners who don't speak any English, yet you're there for that common purpose. And yeah, I think that's the great thing about sort of traveling and running and getting to see a place like Rotorua, that it's like I bumped into guys who are doing bumped into a guy called Tim, whose wife is a very, very good osteopath.
Oh yeah, I coached him.
So yeah, and
I share an office with his. In the bike shop.
I had an osteo there the other day.
Yeah. Someone said they saw you. Yeah. Anyway.
And yeah, we're just starting our run at the same time. Hadn't planned it, and it's like, oh, like, are you running? It's like he had no idea who I was, and it's like, oh yeah, I've got 2 hours easy. It's like, oh sweet, so do I. Just a 2 hour run with a complete stranger.
Yeah.
And got to go see trails that I wouldn't have been on otherwise, and I've run on the same trails since. And yeah, that's just the great thing about coming to a place like this. Like, everyone's just so friendly, and British people don't like talking in a, like, you're just like sit on the train and just look straight down. If anyone makes any eye contact, it's like look straight out the window again. But you come here and like people want to talk to you, and like go to the same cafe pretty much every day for a flat white, and yeah, like you speak to people are interested in why you're here. Like, why is this British guy, like 99% of the British people who come here are traveling and are on a serious budget and they've got long hair and pretty
They stink. And
yeah,
they're not
some,
buying anything.
and some slightly spurious gap year tattoos, which I don't have. And yeah, and it's just like, people are so interested that you're here, and I think that's, and whether I having been to New Zealand before, but not for that long, and like
for the gap year.
Yeah, no, sadly not. Sadly not. That was Australia. And yeah, it's been so nice to spend time in a certain place. Like you feel, yeah, like it's almost like home from home, I guess. Like New Zealand and the UK are so similar in so many ways. It's so different in others, and yeah, you find that you can just like slot straight in, and it's, yes, you're somewhere different and somewhere new, but yeah, it kind of feels normal.
Yeah. Yeah, sweet. Well, that was an extensive answer to
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then one question I wanted that led on from that, actually, because you said you got to do a job, you know, like you're here for the weekend. When has it been the hardest to like focus on, you know, now you've been here, well, it'll be about 3 weeks before the race,
Yeah.
so like you've had ample opportunity, I guess, to do different things or get distracted, but when, like, has there been any other countries where you're like, you maybe haven't focused on the job and you've like got carried away? Has that happened?
It's so difficult. I raced in Hong Kong last year, and it was just it was just so different. The environment was so different, and I stood on the start line and I was just so tired. Like everything was, we'd done a lot. We'd only flown out there a couple of days before, and everything was, yeah, I've got a saying with my coach that's control the controllables, and in the longer you run, the sort of the less controllable factors there are, the more controllable factors there are, but the more likely it is that you can mess things up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you take Hong Kong for example. I hadn't run the course, I hadn't acclimatized correctly, I hadn't looked ahead and looked at Western style restaurants that were going to cater for my sort of diet, and I eat everything, but it's very, for those, I'm sure a lot of listeners have been to Asia, like it's different.
It's different, yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, like it's delicious, but do you want to eat that? Do you want to eat that for the first time 3 days before a race? Probably not. And yeah, so that's pretty tough. And then nowadays, sort of racing at UTMB, which I'm sure is a huge bucket list for any of the races for a lot of runners, and it's just crazy. It's just absolute carnage.
That one, yeah, I want to go there, but yeah.
Because elite runners become celebrities almost for a week. Like you can't, if you go into town, you'll probably be stopped. If you're out for half an hour, you'll probably be stopped 50 times.
Yeah, and is that before your race?
That's before the race.
Because you won,
after
right?
the race.
And
I've won there and went into the race and had nothing before because I was still like an unknown, and yeah, after the race it was just crazy. And I went back this year. I didn't race. I just raced Western States and flew out, and yeah, it was amazing, but it's just super stressful. But there are certain coping mechanisms that you can deal with. Like, right, well, I'm not going to stay in Chamonix. Like, I'm not going to go into town. But then obviously, you've got to weigh up the balance between actually being a full-time athlete now who specialises in running, being a good runner isn't enough. Like, you've got to have a personality. You've got to...
Yeah, I really... Like, if you want to get into that, that's interesting, because someone said to me the other day about a runner, and I was like, yeah, you can be fast. You can be as fast as you want. Like, one, you can't run sub 2 hours, so there you go. You're not there. And they're like, oh, well, trail running's good for earning money. You know, because I'm this fast, and trail runners aren't that fast. And I was like, you can be as fast as you want. There's no prize money, generally, and you still, like, if you don't have a social media presence.
And that's it.
And you seem really good at that. Like, I know you've got a management system or whatever, but I don't know how you dealt with that beforehand. But
yes, I guess, like, I was incredibly naive going into full-time running. Like, having my only ever job was being in the military. Like, captain in the British Army, and before went to board, like incredibly fortunate upbringing. I went to boarding school in the UK, then went straight, took a couple of months off, and then went straight into the army. Like until this year, as the end of last year was the first time I'd ever paid a bill. I didn't have my own house. Like the military, like everything's looked after for.
Yeah.
Like taxes all done.
Really?
When it's there. So like you are spoon fed's probably the wrong way of putting it, but you're so mollycoddled and it's always so inwards looking because you're there to do a job and everyone looks into you and you just focus on what you do because everyone else has got a part to play. And I suppose that's kind of the way that I've taken my running. Like, yes, I am the runner, and running is an individual sport when you're still on the start line, but actually to get you there, everyone's got to do their individual bit. So actually running then becomes a team sport, and everyone's got to do their role to make sure that on the day the athlete performs their best. So whether that's, so for me, like coach, like running movement coach, strength and conditioning instructor, physio, soft tissue work, massage, yoga instructor, my manager / agent, my nutritionalist, my psychologist, all of that, for elite performance, but yet you could just put a pair of trainers on and go run out the door. Like running is, all you're trying to do in a race is move your legs as quickly as they possibly can for a certain amount of distance. That is running, like peeled back. And I guess when I started, like I didn't really understand, and I didn't want to really get involved with it. I wasn't particularly interested, or when I started running, like the plan wasn't to turn full time, and ended up sort of racing better than I thought I was going to, or anyone thought I was going to, and so some opportunities arose, and I had no understanding of contracts, and like everyone loves free stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, it's like
I see a few pellets of Red Bull there, so
yeah, exactly. And everyone loves stuff, and it's like, here's a foam roller, or here's some t-shirts, or here's some shoes, like, which is great. Like it's great getting it, but like where do you draw the line? Like for me, like one of my biggest personality traits and something that I really look for in people who I want to be close to is loyalty. And being given 15 pairs of trainers from 6 different brands is great, but actually I don't want to sell myself out, and so you like right find something that works for you and stick with that and see if you can build a good relationship with that. And I've got no understanding of how contracts work and how sponsorship agreements with athletes and brands, and what's the difference between like an athlete and an ambassador, or like how all of that stuff works. So I was like, right, well, get someone whose job it is, who understands it, who enjoys doing that. And it just happened that the guy that I at my first meeting with, a guy called Simon Bailiff at Arete, he is a trail runner. He knew who I was. He runs a lot and he loves running, and we sort of started this journey that started from nothing, sort of from getting pairs of trainers to now being able to fund myself as a full-time athlete. It's difficult. Obviously, like you want to have as good a relationship with a brand as possible, and for me, like I take Adidas Terex for example. Like I am in collaboration with them now on I helped to design the shoe that I'll be racing Tarawera in, which is seriously cool. Like from a
it's
global,
nuts. Like where you, it's such a short period.
Of time. And such a short period of time, and it's come as almost as become a bit of a shock. Had you said to me, had we had this conversation 2 years ago, I'd say absolutely not. Like,
so where were you then? Because you'd done well. You'd done was
Marathon des Sables.
Yeah. So that put you on the map.
Yes, that was 2017. And then did a couple of other races 2017.
Are you sponsored then? Are you getting is that the free stuff?
Getting a little bit of free stuff, but not... Yeah, little bits of free stuff. But I was wearing at that point, like I was wearing like Salomon shoes with Nike shorts and an Asics t-shirt and a Compress Sport backpack and like an old pair of bike sunglasses, and kind of just the mix and match, because that stuff works. Like I didn't know anything different. And I didn't really have social media, and like I used social media to keep in touch with friends.
The old school way of using social media.
Yeah, precisely. And like one thing led to another, and like went into signed my first contract at the end of 2017 that was for more than just clothing, so like a bit of a retainer and some race bonuses. And
can you say how much? Like, do you want to? Not want to?
Not much. I think race bonuses in total for the year maybe like €2,000, and retainer like 1,000.
Yeah.
So like pretty less than everything in total, the equivalent of like maybe like $8,000.
Yeah.
8,000 New Zealand dollars even.
Yeah,
like, which is great. Like so thankful.
Yeah, like that's like even just to get that next step pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, cause that's the transition from like free stuff's like it's not easy, but it's kind of easy. People, and then there's the odd free stuff, and there's lots of free stuff. But then like money is like that's a different ball game. So you got there, like that's
it got there, and it certainly helped. Definitely helped having management, like.
So was that management then, or was that just you?
That was being managed then. Yeah. So I did it pretty early on, because I was getting myself, and I was like, look, I know where I want to go. I know where I want to. When I sort of decided, when I finished 4th at CCC at UTMB in 2017, I was like, well, I think I can do better than this. And so sort of looked at, and so we started working sort of with Sarif Morete at this point. More of like an informal, like, I'll help out when I can, but actually like, you're still in the army, like don't really want to step on people's toes. And it wasn't sort of until 2018 that races started going really well and started winning big races, and sort of beating some top runners, that sort of offers and opportunities started presenting themselves. And so that's really when the management stepped in and allowed me to focus on the bit that I enjoy and the bit that I'm quite good at.
Yeah.
And that's the running. Like, I don't want to be sat up reading contracts of seeing if I'm going to be done over.
You do say it is the running, like that's the bit that you're good at. But I'm hearing that like there's plenty of people who are good at running. Like I know plenty of people who are good at running, but you seem to be pretty switched on as well.
And I think that's it. Like when it's, for me, like it's not just running. It's everything that comes with it. It's making, like, for a top level performance. Like there's so much more than, and that's in any sport. Like you could be the best. You could be the best rugby player. You could be the best rugby sevens player on the pitch, but actually, like the majority of the time, you're not on the pitch.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And like it's the training that you do, the sacrifices that you make, like improving your performance. Yes, it doesn't happen overnight, but like a 12-week training block, you can make significant gains. But I'm not interested in 12 weeks. I'm not interested in 12 months. Like I'm in it for the 12 years. Like if I don't, you don't have to necessarily be the best runner, but for me, like if I can be the most consistent runner, or the most consistent athlete that I possibly can be, and like there's going to be, you're going to miss training because unforeseen circumstances, things going to happen, like your car's going to break down, but you probably will get sick at some point. But actually, like, why? Like, what is? You don't have to get sick. You don't have to get injured. So like, I would so much. And there's an approach that I've taken over for probably the last 6 months. Actually, is like I'd so much rather train at 95% of my capacity, but play it a little bit safer, and like train smarter, that then allows me to progress. And like I could be in better shape now, but to what extent, and then to what damage? Like what are the pros and cons of doing that? Like great, I could have shifted my VO2 max slightly higher. I could have changed my economy ever so slightly. I could have lost a bit more weight, whatever. But actually, like, this isn't, you don't just get to a race and be like, I'm dining out on this race, like, that's it, that's done. Put that to bed and go on to the next thing. It's actually like, right, well, this is great doing this now, but what's after this? What's after that? And like, my race calendar is pretty much not fully mapped out, but it's blueprinted out. It's like 2025. Like that's how far I'm looking at the moment. And like, yes, things will happen in between that, and probably a lot of it will never happen. But
you got those like things like
everything serves for me. Like, everything serves a purpose. Like, I'm doing this now because I think it will improve me in the future. Like, yes, for me, the race this weekend is an A race, and I've put everything into it. But things go right, things go wrong. Like, all it takes is being quarter of an inch too far to the left of the trail, and you go over on your ankle.
Yeah.
And you could be in the best shape ever. You could have smashed your nutrition. You could be winning at 92k and have to walk the last 8k that takes you 2.5 hours. And you end up finishing 30th.
Yeah. So there's that transition. Now, I've worked with athletes that have gone from that point where their racing is something they're juggling, they're good at it, but they've got their job, or they've got whatever, and then they go and they get the opportunity to go full time, or they even just training camp or do this stint in whatever country, and it's like that becomes then the bad race, like what you're saying, like you've put everything into this. Have you had that situation where you've got a sports psychologist? I'm big on that as well. I've got a guy that I work with, and it's night and day between how you handle those things.
I think it is really important. The psychology is huge, and I say, like, I train peak volume in and around sort of cardiovascular work a week. Yes, in and around 25 hours is probably the benchmark. And that's typically like top end running will probably get up to 240, maybe 250k in a week, plus 8 to 10 hours of biking. And so you do all of that. So you're doing 25 hours a week. Let's say you've hit that let's say it's only a 6-week training block. And then let's say you've averaged with a little bit of a build up and then a little bit of a taper. Let's say you've averaged 20 hours a week. So with my very quick maths, 20 times 6 is 120.
Yeah.
So it's 120 hours going into an 8-hour race.
Yeah.
How does that make sense?
Yeah.
And out of all of that, like, in those 120 hours, like, no one's watching you train. There's no supporters. You're not being paid to be there. You're not getting any prize money. You're not doing anything, but you are saying to yourself, like, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get up early so I can get this session done, because I know the wind's going to pick up at 9 a.m. So I need to get this 3-hour run done before then. So you're putting all of those hours into something tiny. And what if that goes wrong? Whether you do something yourself that messes it up, that you go to, and you then go back to control the controllables. Great. You got a quick first 30k. Sweet. I could run marathon pace for those first 30k, be winning by 15 minutes, and be like, oh, sweet, I'm in the lead. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But then naturally, it's going to get hot. Your nutrition, something's going to go wrong with your nutrition, with your hydration. So that's a controllable factor. You work too hard on the major climbing out of the lake, and that's at 60k there. You still got 40k to go. Like, it's a long old way. But that's a controllable factor. Like, you can go and see the course. The heat. Yes, it's not a fully controllable factor, but there are certain things that you can do to do it. I know if it's going to be 26 degrees that actually I need to back down with my actual pace because it's hot, my heart rate's going to be a bit higher. And that sort of level of perceived exertion is going to be higher if I try and run at a pace that I think I'm capable of running. Or what if you've just, like, I won't touch caffeine for the 10 days going into a race, and I'll be sitting on the start line having had some caffeine, and my heart rate will be like 140. I was like, oh, my resting heart rate's like less.
40.
Yeah, it's sub 40. And you're like, well, this is crazy. So actually, like, just understanding things like that. And yeah, so I think the psychology going into it is huge. And there are two ways of looking at, like, the question, what if? And it's a great, I don't know who, and I'm going to get it wrong, I don't know, and I also don't know who wrote it, but I read it a couple of days ago, and this is the first time, like, I've thought about it, but, like, what if you fall, but what if you fly? Like, how do you know until you've done it? Like, you just don't know. You might have the race of your life. Like, if my best is good enough to be the best on the day, amazing. If my best is good enough to finish 10th on the day, fair play to the guys or girls who finished in the top 9. Like, all you can do is your best, and that's then becomes one really difficult thing with social media and sharing runs on Strava is people compare what they're doing to what someone else is doing.
Before we get into that, but what about, like, your best is your best, you know? Like you said, it might be first, it might be 10th, might be 100th. But then for you now, like, you're a pro, so your best is your best, and you come 10th, and you're like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, how's that? Have you had, like, a really bad race since you've been, like, full time?
Yeah, I've had races I've been disappointed with, not long stuff, but shorter races.
Okay.
Relatively short races. Like, I finished, and it doesn't sound terrible, like, finished like 25th in the Mountain Running World Championships in 2018. Wasn't prepared for it, didn't control the controllables, went out too hard, died. And yeah, I was just really disappointed. And it is really difficult. But yeah, like I said earlier, that I will go through a race analysis, and, like, did I do everything that I possibly could have done to give myself the best result possible in this race? Well, no, I didn't. So
you've got really no right to be disappointed.
Yeah, precisely. Like, it's, people like to blame other people or other things for happening. How did the race go? Oh, it was so tough. It was so hot.
And such did this. Boys, men, we're the worst.
Oh, so
women will blame themselves, like, oh, I did this.
But yeah, you'll be sitting on the start line and say, oh, how's your training going? Oh, yeah, it's been good, but last couple of weeks haven't really felt great. You're making excuses for yourself. And, like, for me, it's like, well, you're the one. If it wasn't my fault, if my coach said, right, you need to hit 165 heart rate for the whole thing, and you'll be fine on that. If you hit 165 for everything, and you'll be great, you'll be able to manage it. So if you do that, if you follow it exactly to the T, you don't use your brain at all, you don't adapt to any changing conditions, and it doesn't go right, yes, it's probably fair to blame someone else, but a little bit. But then you're like, well, you're the only one who knows how you're feeling on the day. So I think the first step for me is just taking responsibility. If I have the best race that I'm possible of having and you win, great. And yes, I will take some responsibility of that, but actually it's team sport. But if I don't have the best race because I ended up getting an upset stomach because my nutrition was off, but I did everything that I should have done and everything that I know from making mistakes in previous races, if something still wasn't right, actually, my nutritionist has got to take some of the blame, but there would have been something that I could have done. I could have, if it was hot and I ended up getting an upset stomach, well, it's probably because you're overheating. and your body is trying to cool itself down by sending all the blood to the skin, and there's nothing in your stomach, so you've just got 15 gels and a couple of cans of Red Bull in there. Of course something's going to go wrong. Like, your body's just not used to that. So yeah, I think taking responsibility for it and then moving on from it. Like, everyone has bad days. Like, and when it is a job, like, everyone who's listening to this podcast now will be able to think like of a time when they did something wrong in a job. Like, if you're a teacher, for example, and you forgot to do some marking, or you're in the military and you forgot to you don't shine your shoes as well as you could have done. Like, people make mistakes, and like, mistakes are such a part of human nature. And I really do think, for me, one of the best training blocks I've ever done was after that race. I think had I done really well at the Mountain Running World Championships, I wouldn't have won CCC at UTMB.
Yeah.
And I think it's really strong. Like, for me, like, finishing Western States third last year was amazing, but it's not like, had you won it, you'd be like, oh, sweet, like, that's kind of done. But actually, like, for me, it's not a disappointing performance, but when you still think there's more to gain from it, for me, it really does fuel my desire to not necessarily train harder, but to train smarter and to figure out and to learn what's possible, what can I do in order to further advance my performance. Is that dialing in my nutrition even better? Is it going away on a training camp? Is it spending more time doing heat acclimation before a race? Like, yeah, I think it's really interesting in how different people approach problems or successes, and I think that's what makes good athletes great. Because Rome wasn't built in one day. Like, I want to be in this sport for 10, 15 years competing at the highest level. I am nowhere near the best that I can be now, and I hope someday I will really top out at what I'm capable of doing. And I want to give myself every chance of doing that. And in the way to get there, like, geez, I'm going to make heaps of mistakes. And other people around me are going to make mistakes. And I think that's the great thing about sort of training in training groups and being based at Loughborough is you've got that corporate knowledge, that shared information that is hugely valuable. Like, yes, like, it's great to learn from your own mistakes, but if someone makes a mistake, learn from that. You see someone going off too hard in a race and they blow up, sweet, well, learn from it. Like, you don't have to put yourself through it to learn. Like, you've just got to have an open mind, I think. And there is so much stuff going on, and we become so inwards focused when we get to these races because we think that endurance sport is an individual sport. But actually, like, I will learn. I haven't done that many races. I'm fairly new to this sport, and I'm racing against people whose like YouTube videos that I was watching when I started getting into the sport. And for me, like, to be stood on the same line as Sage this weekend, like, is awesome. And yeah, it's like he was one of my like running idols coming to the sport, and more so with like huge at Western States this year, like racing with Ryan Sands. Like, Ryan Sands was one of the athletes who I saw being a Red Bull athlete, and he was one of the reasons why I wanted to become a Red Bull athlete. Like, I just thought what he was doing was incredible. I thought he was an amazing guy. Yeah, to be able to stand next to him on the start line and to run bits with him, and yeah, to have a great race against him, like, is so inspiring. And sometimes I've got to pinch myself and be like, dude, you're still only like 2 years into running. You've only been a full-time athlete for 6 months. Like, just chill out. If things don't go completely to plan, just chill.
Yeah, those opportunities are so important, eh? Like,
yeah, you've got to be patient.
Yeah.
You've got to be patient.
Being around this race last year, seeing Ryan Sands and like Cody Reed and stuff like that, and it was just like, like, my wife was doing our support crew, but I was like, I need to be here. I need to find out where I'm at, like, compared to those best in the world. Like, guys like you, and you're like, holy shit, you're just in my own backyard. Like, like, I message you, do you want to go for a run? Like, not missing those opportunities.
Yeah, and that's the great thing, and like those conversations that you have, and it doesn't matter who you are, but there are lessons to learn from everyone. And like, I wouldn't say whatever everyone says, take it 100% because like, I'm not going to share my exact training because for me, it's like, it's a little bit private. I like to do things a little bit different. Like, I'll tell you the sessions I do, I'll tell you the paces that I run, but I'm not going to hold your hand when you're doing the session because at the end of the day, you're competing against them. And that's then become the difficult thing on training camps. Like, for me, like, if I wanted to go to Flagstaff on a training camp, like, I'd train with the cowboys out there and train with Jim and Jared and everyone. It'd be amazing. But, like, you just push each other so hard that you get to the start line, like, one of you's probably not going to be there, or one of you's going to be burnt out, and it's probably going to be me because I'm way too competitive. And I just think but that's the great thing with this sport, like, and with is the benefit of social media is you can just ping someone a message and be like, sweet, I see you're here, like, let's go for a run, like, and you can then learn so much from that. So I think for anyone like thinking about doing their first race, like, just message your idols. Like, if they don't, what's the worst that's going to happen? They don't reply.
Yeah, and
because what's interesting, nothing.
Like, people will look up to you. They'll go, oh, your results. They'll look at your results, but they kind of forget we're in it's a pretty niche sport. Yeah. You know, like, you're not a movie star.
Yeah.
You don't have 20 million followers.
No.
You have whatever you have, and like, you're not getting 20 messages from random people every single day. No. Like, well, I don't know, are you?
Well, sometimes. So I guess quite a few weird requests.
Oh, really?
That's kind of stopped. They've
Okay.
all been blocked, but it was like sending like warm shorts and things. And like, ugh,
Okay.
creepy.
Really?
A 50-50 split of male female. Bizarre. But I reckon I get on average maybe like 50 from people who I've never heard from before. I think probably 50 messages a week.
Really?
Runners, yeah. You get a lot.
Really?
It's a lot,
because how many followers have you got? This is on Instagram?
On Instagram, just under 20,000.
Okay.
You get about 50 a week.
This seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And a lot of them are sort of just like, good luck in your race. Or I had one that I replied to today, sent like a week ago about shin splints. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Like, this is what I would do. And spend a couple of minutes writing a message and we'll try and do that. And that's the great thing. But there'll be a couple of others in there being like, oh, I'm just looking to get into this race, or I'm signed up to my first race. Like, what are your top tips? I'm like, well, just listen to a podcast. Like, go there. And a lot of people want the easy answer. They want you to say like, right, doing this first race.
This is the secret.
If you jump up and down on your left foot 3 times and then your right foot 4 times on the start line, you're gonna win. That's what people think happens. Like, oh, you're an elite athlete. Like, you must know everything. Like, you make 0 mistakes. And I put a run on Strava, being like unplanned bushwhacking the other day, because I had a 10-minute hike here, no idea where I was, no idea how I got off the course, but 10 minutes of being like, right, this is just shit. I hate this. I'm like covered in cobwebs. I'm not getting my suntan. And
it happens to everyone in the forest.
Yeah, exactly. And someone comes to me like, oh, I'm so glad to see that this happens to the elites as well. And I'm like, yes, you're a normal person. Like, I'm making myself a tuna pasta bake tonight. Yeah. It hasn't just like...
For your birthday.
For my birthday. God, that's depressing. And there was some Weetabix for pudding. It just doesn't... These things don't just like happen out of like... They don't just come out of thin air. It's like, oh, you've had congratulations, like, you had an amazing race. It's like, yeah, thanks very much. Like, those 8 hours or however long it's going to take, like, went really well. But actually, those 120 hours I've done in the last 5 weeks, or 6 weeks, like, you're like, well, yeah, that was obviously what you're hoping for, but like, you've got to prepare correctly for it, and you've got to do the things that work for you as an individual. Like, the way that I train is very different to how some other people train. And it'll be different to other people. And people will be like, oh, like, you're not trying, like, you don't need to run that fast. Like, why are you, like, tomorrow, my last session before the race is 2 by 6 minutes at half marathon pace. People are like, why are you running at half marathon pace? I was like, well, this is my training. It's like, it's what I do. It's what me and my coach think works. Like, we've tried it before. It worked great for CCC. It worked great for the Trail Running World Championships. So just repeat it. Like,
yeah.
And it's different. And people will find like different things work for them. Other people might take this whole week off because, geez, I've got to run 100 kilometers on the weekend like that. That's an awful long way. Like, yeah, people do things. Like, what, have you got a session this week? What are you going to...
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What will you do?
I don't really have much specific. I kind of, for me, what works is just, like, I keep a pretty normal week of, like, running.
Yeah.
And I just don't do my normal, like, midweek, like, hard session.
Yeah.
So otherwise it's just shorter.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
So there you go. But now because you said that, am I now going to change what I'm doing? Or because I said what I'm doing, you're going to be like, oh, well, should I be doing...
When I started, probably.
Yeah.
Like, if you had told me...
Yeah.
If you'd put that on social... Not necessarily Strava, because it would be after the fact. But say...
I put up
Tom's
my training week.
taper week.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'd be like... And you could make it up as well.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do that.
Yeah, and I will, like, and tomorrow, like, I will put my session up, but I'll probably hide it, and I'll just leave it as, like, afternoon run. And it'll be 5 minutes per K average. And so I'll be like, oh, that's just a chilled 40-minute run he's done. But then you look into it, and I think that can be like the deceptive thing with it. But just because one person's doing one thing and someone's running, if I'm racing against someone who's running 280 kilometers a week, but I'm only running 260, like, oh, should I do more? You're like, well, no, like, this is my plan. I'm happy with my plan. I trust my plan. I trust the people around me, the experts in their field. I will hold them accountable for the training. And actually, if I end up pulling it back and I skip a run and do something on the bike instead because I'm a little bit tired or something's playing up, like, being able to do that and having that confidence, I think, is something that comes with a bit of experience and not just being a complete, like, I love data and I love getting my bloods analysed. I love going to the lab and getting tested. I love working out splits. I love numbers. And, like, with trail running, like, it's not all about the numbers. And that's part of what really draws me to it. It's actually, and if I wasn't trail running and I was doing other running, I was spending more time road running. Like, I'd still run on the trails because actually, like, pace and things don't matter. Like, what if you've been given a recovery run that's at, let's say, 5 minutes per K? Like, what if you feel horrendous? Do you still have to do it at 5 minutes per K? What if you get stuck behind some mums and dads pushing babies and you've got to jog really slowly for 30 seconds? Like, does that mean that you've got to make 30 seconds up? What if you finish in, God forbid you finish in, like, 5:05 per kilometre average? Or what if you've been set, like, a 30-minute run and you get back to your car in 29 minutes, 30 seconds? Are you going to run loops?
Are you?
Around you? No, absolutely not.
You're not?
No.
You're not a...
No.
I'm not either. Some people
do, but then I would... If you're prepared to do that, and I had a great example of it. In January, I had run 970 kilometers. And I saw it, it was the 31st of January, I was like, oh, I could just go and do another 30. If I was the sort of person who ran around my car for 30 seconds, I would go and do another 30 kilometers. Where do you draw the line?
Well, I tell you what, I put it on Instagram. I had 99 point something.
Yeah.
I had like 800 meters to get to 100 Ks for a week. And I said, would you or wouldn't?
Yeah.
Like, would you head out? Maybe it was even more, maybe like 2Ks or something. It was like 70% yes.
Yeah. And that's...
But that's different because my wife said most people don't run that fast. So, like, to be able to
be able to say you've done it. And it's just... Yeah, where do you draw the line. Like for me, like training's training. Yes, I enjoy training, but I don't train ridiculously hard because I love training. Like, I train ridiculously hard because I love racing. I love doing as well as I can at racing. I love seeing what my body is capable of doing and a lot of people don't think it's possible, and there are times where I don't think it's possible. And yeah, and if that then allows me to have the best day that I possibly can do, like, you'll do it. You do it as much as you can. Yeah, the Strava's a fun one. I've only been on it recently, since maybe the middle of January.
And are you full on? You full everything's on there, or
most things? All my running's on it. My cross training's not on it.
Yeah.
Because my cross training is pretty specific and it's pretty different.
So then, like, with your training, I had a look at your Strava and I was like, shit, 200 plus Ks a week. That's, like, I'd say that's on the high side. I want to know about you training, like, sort of handling that volume, and, like, how you got there. Because a lot of people won't even get there, like, in terms of runners who are probably faster than you.
Yeah.
But you're a few years in and you're there. You're 200. What's your biggest ever week? Or biggest ever 7 days, whatever you want to.
Pretty in and around 250.
Yeah.
Like, I find, because I still do quite a bit of quality work, quality sessions, like, even in a 250k week, I'll still do a miles rep session on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then I'll still do a tempo run on the weekend at marathon pace, or quicker. But yeah, I think for me, like, I think my training age is actually quite young, but being robust, I think, is one of the biggest traits, traits is probably the best word, of being a successful ultra distance trail runner. You've just got to, being robust and being stubborn, because things are going to be tough. You are going to pick up little niggles on the way, and combining that with a little bit of intelligence of being like, right, is this niggle... There are times where I'll do 3 weeks where something doesn't feel right the whole time, but you think that you can get away with it and it's fine. There are other times where you run for 3 weeks and nothing goes wrong and you feel amazing every single run. There are other times where something will just ping, or you'll go over on your ankle, or you keep running and it makes things worse. And I think that, like, intuition is really difficult to get. And I think for me, like, I've just built, like, I see training as, if you compare it to, like, building a house, like, the most important part of the house and the first thing that you've got to do when you're building a house is lay the foundation.
Yeah, like, there's plenty of episodes on this podcast to try and reiterate that. Yeah.
Like, even if you skip out, sorry, the radio here just turns itself on at 7:15 every night. It's pretty freaky. And yeah, if you skip the foundation, like, yeah, you may survive. Your house you may live in the greatest house ever, but it's probably going to last for 2 years, and something's going to go wrong with it. So yeah, take your time with the foundation. And for me, like, being in the military, like, doing such non-specific training for 8 years, for me, has just built this great endurance. And I did so many different styles of training when I was in the military. Like, I spent just under a year in Kenya, and, like, I was at altitude, did a little bit of running, but sort of predominantly more sort of CrossFit style workouts. A lot of which was just using body weight because I didn't have the facilities for it. And so that I may have done like a body weight pull up sort of style workout for a couple of months, and then I'd then come back to the UK and I'd start playing rugby sevens, and then I would sign up to a Ironman triathlon and do that. And
you've done an Ironman?
Done an Ironman. Oh. I did all right. I would get on the bike and on the run, I just can't swim. I can swim, but not very quick.
Yeah.
One pace.
Which Ironman did you do?
Ironman Wales.
Oh, so the
slow.
the hardest.
Yeah, it was, and that was why I did it. I was like, well, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
So I did like 100-mile bike ride, 1 sea swim, and a couple of loops at Richmond Park as my training, and just did.
How'd you go?
Finished 3rd in my age group, which was like 18 to 24s. I couldn't tell you what time I did it. Yeah. I'm just not interested. For me, the time didn't matter. Like it was.
When was it? Because it hasn't been around that long, has it? That event.
We did in 2015, 2016.
I just remember seeing footage of 1 year, and it just looked.
It was horrendous when I did it. And yeah, I think just having all of those. So the foundation was. I've sort of done 8 years of foundation
in different ways,
training, and be it like. A lot of it is like hiking, or what do you guys call it? Tramping?
Hiking or tramping.
Tramping.
Yeah.
I'd never heard tramping until I came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got a tramp is like a homeless person.
Oh, yeah. Well, tramp also is like a slut as well.
we don't use that. And yes, I think just having like that foundation just been built over time, like doing long slow hikes, carrying weight over uneven terrain in bad shoes, like military boots, which definitely don't have a carbon plating, and like eating bad food or ration packs, not fresh food, and your body just adapting to it and coping with it, and just being robust, like sleeping outside, like you just become like slightly hardened, I guess, and then. Yeah, for me now to then be able to, I can then go into quite a specific training block, a very specific training block, and bump mileage up pretty quickly.
So when this is the interesting stuff as well, because when you look at you, right, or on paper or in an article or something, it's like, and then he was good and ran 200 Ks, but then you listen, there's always that backstory of like, oh yeah, well I did this.
For me, it makes complete. For me, being where I am now, if I look back on it, at the time, when I was 16 years old, like all I wanted to be was either a professional rugby player or in the army or both, and like I was hitting the weights room the whole time, and just never got. Like put on a bit of size, but just never got that big. And I was
exactly the same. Rugby, first 15, competitive.
Exactly. And I was good. Like, I was good. Like trialed for professional clubs and everything. Like never selected, and I was never the best player on the pitch, but I reckon I always tried the hardest. Like I would always be the first person at training. I would always run up there. And like so, and it just kind of makes sense. Like we used to have like a school steeplechase that was a pretty like 8K cross country that I won every year off zero training and would beat people who ran, but I would never put team sports were what I did. Like I enjoyed running, but not massively, and then joined the army and sort of in like all the military tests that involved endurance, like did way better than I was supposed to. Like sort of set records in hiking things and like with weight on my back, and just didn't really think much of it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just quite good at this, and it wasn't until Marathon des Sables that's a 280 kilometer week with a rest day, pretty much. So 6 days, 280k off. My highest, I couldn't even tell you what my highest volume week was before that because I didn't program it. Maybe 140k, but to be able to step up from 140k to double it is, I think just robustness, but having that base training, having that foundation training. And so looking back on it now, like being here kind of makes complete sense, and I just denied it when I was growing up, and part of me wishes like you could go back 20 or 10 years and say like, no, just like rugby's not going to pan out for you. Just don't worry about that. Like, don't play rugby, don't play hockey. Like, you're going to get injured by doing that. Like, just focus on your running. Focus on your running. And it'd be really interesting to see what happened. Like, whether I would have gone to the track or whether I'd have done something. But for me, like, I sort of kind of fell into trail running, really enjoyed it, and enjoyed everything about it, not just the running, but the community. And I now, like, really enjoy the sponsorship side of it. I like being linked with brands, designing things, and for me to progress as much as they're progressing. And yeah, I think it's just, for me, it's now like, this kind of just feels normal. It feels natural that endurance was what I was good at when I was a kid. And yeah, now you get to do it full time, which is sweet.
Yeah. So then with your with your training, as people just love to hear about it, you know, like, how are you running 200 Ks a week? Like, how does that look?
So
for you, if you're just obviously, like, when you're pushing the mileage up, you've got just more.
Yeah.
Right? But then in your standard, like, do you have a set kind of distance you want to achieve or time in your standard, like, very standard week? Is that 200 or is that like a training camp week?
Yeah, 200 is pretty more training camp. But now, like, as a full-time athlete, even when I'm at home, it's like you're on training camp.
Yeah.
Because you've got nothing else to do. Like, we almost go into... I say you go into lockdown. Like, it's just a bit harder to do because there are distractions. Like, you can go see friends or daily life occurrences happen. So yeah, typically, like, a typical week is probably like not on training camp. Just like a maintenance week is probably like somewhere between 170 and 180.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I'm around there, it's going to be... So Monday is normally a bit of a quicker morning run. So probably around... So somewhere between 20 and 22K. I've been doing that with Andrew Butchart, the British 5,000, 10,000 metre runner. And it's quick. We're probably averaging like 3:25s per K. And then an easy run in the evening. And one way that I find of just bumping mileage up is just adding a couple of K on. I like double days. I think for an ultra endurance athlete, I think double days is great because you just shock your body into training again. And I seem to make real gains by doing double days. So yeah, at the beginning of a build up, that might be 8K in the evening, which is 35 minutes, running at like 4:25s. But that might bump up to 10K, it might bump up to 12K. That's like an easy thing to add volume on. Or if I feel horrendous, I'll drop it down. I'll do 4K, or I'll do 6K, I'll do 20 minutes shakeout.
Yeah.
You can always find, there's always 20 minutes in the day. Tuesday, depending on what Monday was or how hard Monday was, but Tuesday will be the session, and whether I do the session in the morning or in the afternoon. Tuesday is typically like our quicker day. So the longest per rep we would do is 8 minutes, and this is more of like a 10K pace is probably the slowest that we'd run. That's about like 2:52 per K. So yeah, we'd either do like 4 by 8 minutes at 10K pace, or 6 by a mile, or 8 by a K, something like that. So not a particularly high volume session, and I'd normally do that with a group, but what I'd do is they'd typically do like a 3K, somewhere between 3 and 4K warm up and cool down. If I'm in a high peak, or if I'm on training camp, or I'm trying to up my mileage a little bit, I'll just add a little bit on either side. So I might do a 8K warm up, 8K cool down. So that turns into a pretty big session.
Yeah.
And if that's in the morning, then it's pretty easy to do. Like, you can find time. But if it's in the evening, like, you're pretty knackered, it may take a bit of a hit. And then if you done it in the morning, then easy run in the evening, and that's typically like normally a bit of a shorter day. shorter run because you've smashed yourself a bit in the morning. Wednesday, depending on what you're doing, like Wednesday typically will be a bigger day, really just a single run, but will be a bit longer. So it might be, depending on what you're training for, what phase of the training block you're in, it might be somewhere between 2.5 and 6 hours of running on the Wednesday, and then depending on what phase you're in, again, same on the Thursday, like whether we double day long runs.
So you do a Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, do a Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday long runs.
Yeah.
And so Thursday will either be like a chilled day if we don't need if the mileage doesn't need to be high, and like my relaxed days are 16k in the morning, 8k in the evening.
Yeah.
So a relatively small day if you're hitting 200 plus Ks. Actually, like doing 24, like that's 200 Ks a week is something like 33, 34k per day average, 7 days a week. Fridays are normally like an unprogrammed day. If I feel good, so I can chuck something in, and I'm switched on enough, I speak to my coach enough to know what to do. If I'm fried and knackered, like I won't run, and I might go on the bike. And we haven't even spoken about bike sessions. It's purely running.
Yeah.
But it might be 70 minutes in the morning, 35 minutes in the evening, or it might be 90 in the morning, 20 in the evening, or it's kind of up for debate. Saturday will be a pretty hard day. Starting off normally with a tempo in the morning, like a marathon pace tempo. We'll go up to 20 miles, so up to like 38k at marathon pace.
So will you warm into that?
Yeah, so probably 4 either side, 4k either side. So it turns into a big day. It turns like it might end up being like a 45k morning.
Yeah.
Which is pretty tough. And then in the evening, like I like to do. So it kind of depends on where we are, but we'll do something that evening, super slow, and then with a couple of injections of more pace. So we might do like a 3k warm up, 6 by 300 meter, like extended strides almost.
Yeah.
Then you're not going crazy fast, but it's a stride, it's a long stride, and then a 3k cool down. And then Sunday is like a typical road runner's long run. So you might do like 25k, sort of chilled, chatty, then into 10k, progressive effort, and then 5-10k at the end, back home or to a coffee shop.
Yeah.
So that's typically how the training week pans out.
That is, I'm seeing a lot of resilience there, especially around, like it all sounds pretty normal, and then like that Wednesday, Thursday, if you back those up, that's like big, and but you're following up with that weekend, that Saturday following into that Sunday.
But if you put it in the right way, so like Saturday, the crunch points for me are really like the Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
But what if I did, let's say I had 4 hours on Wednesday, 3 hours on Thursday. If I started at 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning, you finish by 11, let's say, cool down and everything. And then if I start my run at 3 p.m. on Thursday, so actually I've got a 24-hour window. I've got a rest day in the middle. I've got 24 hours more.
Well, because the difference
doing
is
nothing. And
that's your job.
And this is the main. If you worked a full-time job, yes, you would struggle doing that much mileage, but you could fit it in. Like you could run commute, you could run in your lunch break, you could run commute again in the evening, maybe with a little bit more in, and you could probably get up to the same mileage and the same volume of running. But actually, like the training stuff is great, but actually it's the stuff that happens outside of training. Like if I'm not getting ready for training, I am recovering from training. And that's like what I mean, like it's being at home is like being at a training camp. Like I will finish a run, go in through the back door, which goes straight into the gym. And in the gym, I'll spend at least 10 minutes of sort of fannying about and sort of doing some stretching, checking my phone, but we'll make sure that I'm doing something to start recovery. Like I have a recovery shake or have some, like grab a quick snack while I'm doing that. Upstairs, like hot shower, recovery leggings on or like comfy clothes on. Downstairs, eat like a good meal within like the first hour. After that, I'm probably gonna sit on the sofa with a book, put some recovery boots on, do an hour of like proper compression on my legs, and then go upstairs again, have a 2-hour nap, come downstairs, eat, go for a quick dog walk, and then run on the treadmill in the evening. Like, and actually, like, the majority of the day is not spent training. The majority of great. You train for, let's say you train for 24 hours in the week. It's the equivalent of one day. Yeah. You then got 6 days, so you're training for 1/7 of the time that you possibly can. So, as a full-time, yes, I understand the limitations for people who work a full-time job, and ultimately that's why I ended up leaving the military, because I just didn't have the time to recover, and I just ended up getting niggles, and don't get me wrong, I still get niggles now. But yeah, I train for 1 day of the week, equivalent, and I recover for 6 days of the week.
Yeah.
Like that's how important recovery is. And it's then doing all the other things that, don't get me wrong, they take up time, and it means that you might not nap on I typically don't nap on a Friday, even though it's one of my easier days, because I go and get treatment on a Friday, and I'll go see the physio, and like Tuesday lunchtime, like if I've done the workout in the morning, I probably won't get to nap on a Tuesday, because I finish the workout, I pretty much go straight to the gym from there, I then get some soft tissue work, and then I'm pretty much back into running again. So like a Tuesday is a pretty tough day. You're then adding 10 hours of bike volume into that. You're then adding 3 hours of yoga into that. Like it is all for me, a training program is like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like, you may think that there are lots of different ways for it to work, and for different people there are different ways. Every person has their own individual jigsaw puzzle. If I try and make mine look like yours, it wouldn't work, and vice versa. There are times where you'll try and put something into place and it doesn't quite work. Whether that's, I try and back up this. I've done a tempo on a Saturday. Oh yeah, I felt something in my hamstring, but I think it'll be alright to do strides in the evening. You do that, you're basically just trying to hammer in a piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, just let it not fit.
Yeah.
And like people are like, my goal for 2020 is not to miss a single day of training, or not to miss a single training session. Like, how can you, like, you just don't know what's going to happen. Like, what if you pull up? Like, I would so much rather take 2 easy days, or 2 non-running days, and go on the bike, and probably get more volume, than try and run through it, because actually, like, 2 days now will save me 2 weeks in a week's time. And I think that would probably be my biggest piece of advice that's not like directly related to running, and it's not the secret handshake that everyone wants that is going to get you to win a race. But my single bit of advice would be like, listen to your body. If you feel great, work hard. If you feel slow and sluggish, don't work hard. If you're feeling a niggle, like, is it bad? You're going to make it worse by doing something, yes or no. If it's a yes, well, don't do anything. You're not going to lose any fitness in 2 days. And yeah, like, I think it's so important that people do that. And people just become so constricted and confined by like data, and this is what my training program says, I have to do this. Like, no, just be super flexible, because like patience is like, you've got to be super patient.
Yeah, it's a long road.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like,
endurance, especially.
Yeah, you've got to endure. There you go. It's half of what we do.
Yeah. I think that's probably enough about like training and stuff. Now, there was some stuff I asked you beforehand we could get over. Because some people like to talk about the sport that they're in, and like trail running, I guess like I haven't been in it like you have. So how do you find the state of trail running at the moment? Like your sport, so
I think because it's not a fully recognised sport. It's more of a, governing bodies see it as more of a hobby. Have seen it as more of a hobby over the last couple of years. Like every day we get closer for it to be more of a recognised sport. Like trail running is getting more coverage in magazines like Runner's World, Athletics Weekly. Like trail running and mountain running exists, and I think from some people showing that it's possible to be very good on the trails and then translate that into cross country. And like for me, competing at the European Cross Country Championships was huge, because this guy just ran 100 miles and 6 weeks later he's running a 10k race against the best 10k runners in Europe and didn't do appallingly. And for people to see that and be like, oh well, actually, if it's like it's part of running, it comes under the bracket of running. And in 2021 the Trail Running World Championships becomes a IAAF event, so it becomes a major championships. So in theory it's a proper sport, and it needs to be recognised by the governing bodies. So I think that's part of it. I think the sport, it's really interesting because it's almost a 50-50 split between European and American runners. The American runners typically come from a collegiate track and field background and are through and through runners, which you then get the Europeans who trail run in the summer and cross country ski or ski mountaineer in the winter. And that's typically why the European athletes don't do that well in America, and the American athletes typically don't do that well in Europe.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult thing with trail races, because who is the best? Trail running is so different. The person who wins Western States 100, no one has ever won in the same year Western States and UTMB. No one has ever done it, because they're such different races.
Yeah.
Training for a 14-hour 100 miler and training for a 20-hour mountainous 100 miler is so different. So that, and people are like, oh, you're a trail runner, and that's where it's sort of going back to the training very briefly. Like, it's so different in your training. My training is so specific for the race that I'm preparing for, because it's got to be, because trail race is so different. You're not running. It's not like you're running London Marathon or Berlin Marathon. Sweet, flat road marathon. There's a training plan. This is it just becomes so specific, and I think that's the great thing about this sport is every race is different. Every race is so different that it poses different challenges for different people, and someone may come here and be amazing on this course and it may just suit them down to the ground, but then they go and run another 100k race, Ultra Trail Australia for example, but just can't hack it.
Yeah. Or
they go and run CCC and they just can't hack it in the mountains, and they're just nowhere near as good. And so I think that's great, and I think now that it is so commercial. I see trail running as sort of the Ironman long distance triathlon version of running. It's so much more commercial than road running, because brands love the outdoors and love selling the idea of the outdoors.
We can sell more stuff too. You know, like Ironman came in, and however they did it, people could buy speed. They could just buy heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just shoes and it wasn't just your kit. to do a marathon.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. You just need to wear this and run 42.2.
Yeah.
And then Ironman came in and I was like, yes. And then trail running, like, you just so much stuff you can buy.
There's so
Poles and bags and
a
whole bunch of different flasks and nutrition. And it's just like, it's
huge.
It is very commercialized,
It's very commercialized. And you see that with...
Well, Ironman bought Tarawera.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And, whether it's the first Ironman trail race that I'm going to do, so I'm really interested to see how it compares to other races. Like, you go to a race like Western States that's so uncommercial. It's probably the most competitive 100-miler in the world. But it's so insignificant. It's so tiny. But you then go to something like UTMB in Chamonix and it's huge. It's like a circus.
Yeah, like thousands.
Thousands of spectators coming to watch it. Whereas in Squaw Valley, like, you can kind of just walk about and no one really cares. And so it's that side of it's really interesting, and the owners of UTMB, all of the board of directors are now identical to all of the board of directors at the Ultra Trail World Tour. And in the Ultra Trail World Tour now, a lot of these races are now starting to be blah 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 race UTMB, sort of as part of the UTMB family. So I don't know if there's going to be a shift and that's just, it's a purely commercial thing. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, and you see different brands like Adidas have got an awesome Infinite Trails training weekend. Salomon are doing like a Golden Trail series.
Is this good or bad? Because
just so do
you follow boxing?
Yeah.
So I don't even know who wins what world championship. Yeah,
exactly.
You don't want that.
And that's kind of the way that it's going. There are so many different races that actually you never end up racing the very best.
Yeah.
Like, so same weekend as Western States. So Western States 100 miler in the US. It's the same weekend as Lavaredo, which is a 120 kilometer race in Italy, which is the same weekend as...
Is that on the World Tour as well? Ultra Trail?
Yeah. So same weekend.
Yeah.
Same weekend as Marathon de Mont Blanc.
Yeah.
Which is the same weekend as Adidas Infinite Trails.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 huge races that fall on the same weekend. Which, for me, it's incredibly frustrating, because you want to... Yes, you want to be as good as you can against yourself, but actually you want those opportunities. Like, I want to race Kilian Jornet. I want to race Jim Walmsley again. I want to race Pau Capel. And yes, everyone's probably going to be at one of those 4 races, but actually you're going to end up racing 25% of the competition.
And you can
and it just
come here
diluted.
and you're like, this is a race, Tarawera.
Yeah, precisely.
You can have Kilian come and be like, they paid me, so
I'm just using it as a training.
I'm turning up,
and that's just what you don't know on the start line. Like, and even now, you look at some of the caliber of athletes who are racing. You're like, why are you here? Like, are you using it? Is this an A race for you, or are you racing in? Are you just using this as a long run? You're going to go hard for 50k and then just chill out? Like, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But then it gives you more variety. Like, it allows you to, like, my races aren't. I choose all of my races 100%. There's zero pressure on me. If I said, right, this year I want to race, like, yes, I couldn't just race on the road. But I said at the beginning of this year, right, this is what I'm racing this year. And the sponsors believe in me, and they believe in, like, the way that I'm going and the dreams that I have, and will do anything they can do to support it. And if I said, right, this year I'm going to stay in the UK and race small trail races, they would probably say, oh, well, actually this isn't kind of in our best interest. But actually, like, if you're sensible with it, for me, like, yes, this is running and I love it, but this is also a job and this is my business. I would love to be able to retire from running and not have to work a proper job, which would be amazing.
Is that realistic?
Who knows?
No, well, because you're like,
I've got
I'm
no
not
idea.
a paid athlete. You're a paid athlete, right? So you obviously know, like, if we had a look at, you got teacher, you've got lawyer.
I'm better paid now than I was as a captain in the British Army.
Yeah.
Yes, it could all end tomorrow, but the money for it's a weird one because 95% of races there's no prize money.
Yeah, so this is weird. And also, do you find it, like, no one talks about a contract, right? So no one's like, Adidas isn't like, oh, we signed Tom for $500,000 a year.
It's not that.
It's definitely not
I'd
that.
love it to be that, but it's not.
But I think it has the potential to be that. But then you're like, oh, maybe people think I'm being paid $100,000, so I don't want to say I'm being paid 10.
Yeah.
And so then you don't. And then I come in, right, and say I do well this weekend, so Adidas like, yeah, I'll give you $1,000. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's good or not. It's better than nothing.
And,
so
that's the thing, you kind of.
But you've got a manager, I guess.
I've got a manager, and that's all of that is sorted, so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to. He will do. Yes, he takes a cut of it all, so it is in his best interest for me to do financially as well as I possibly can. So in turn, he does as well as he possibly can, and he used to and still does predominantly deal with footballers. So all of the money for the business pretty much is coming in. The biggest trail run, I don't even know what it would be. I don't even know what Killian would be on. Let's say ballpark figure, Killian, 500,000 euros a year, let's say. That would probably be the lowest of a footballer.
Oh man, that would be like his commission on. Yeah.
Precisely. So even if you were the best at what you do, like, it's still, you still kind of got no idea. But trail running is such a new sport. And look at like Ironman athletes now. I see trail running where Ironman was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like but I think it's growing quicker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised.
But we've got things like YouTube that didn't exist then, so you can easily become a brand of yourself without without needing those big performances, those big races. You can take people around the world with you, and with the races that we have, it's not the London Marathon. I'm running in London. This is the streets of London. They just happen to be closed. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I don't care. It's like, you've been putting up stuff on Instagram, and it's like, I saw some people comment on your video you put up, like, is New Zealand as amazing as it looks, and all of this? Because you have that opportunity.
Yeah, precisely. And I think that's like going back to the point of like being a full-time athlete isn't, like, being a good runner just isn't enough. Like, you've got to be prepared to do these things and to spend time doing. And actually, if like I did my session today and went back to my car at the beginning of my cool down to grab my GoPro to film the last 2K, just an out and back stretch, like, so people feel part of the journey. Like, sweet, like, it's race week, cool, this is what Tom's doing for his race week. Like, it's interesting. Oh, look at those new shoes he's wearing, look at that bag he's got, oh, that watch, these poles, and like, that shit sells.
It's important though to see it as you sharing your not like, people want to know, like, what are you up to? Like, they don't want to. A lot of athletes are like, I don't want to do this, and it's like, exactly. Actually, people really care. They really support you and what you're doing.
And my view is like, yes, you could have the most, like, and I think this is where businesses get it wrong. Like, business accounts, and I think it's why businesses typically don't do that well on social media, because there is zero personality. It's purely transactional thing. And for me, for running, like, yes, it is a job. It is. If you look at it like that, like, right, the better that I perform, the more money I get paid at the end of the year, in layman's terms. But actually, like, there is so much more to it than that. It's like, people want to know that you're human, like, and I will share, like, if I get injured, like, I share it when I had an injection into my knee because I just destroyed it. And like people like you sharing it because they've done the same thing, and they like knowing firstly that you're human, but secondly that like you've got a personality. I've got 2 dogs at home, and like people probably get.
All right, that's answering a question. One thing people didn't know about you.
I give you 2 things. I've got 2 dogs at home, both fostered dogs, and one of them likes to run away a lot on a Thursday. She only ever run away on a Thursday. Bizarre.
It's like the radio turning on at 7:15.
Yeah. 7:15 every night. Yeah, she runs away on Thursdays. And another fact about me is I love baking bread.
Really?
I love making bread.
I would not have written that down.
Love it. Absolutely love it. She can't get enough of it.
All right.
It's the best Christmas present I got this year. Bread maker.
Yeah?
100. I used to do it all by hand, but now it's like...
You did it by hand.
I used to do it all by hand,
Yeah.
like kneading everything all by hand, but now it's chucking in there. And I still will occasionally make by hand loaf.
Yeah.
But yeah, bread maker. Chuck it on when we go to bed, set it on a timer, and then it will be ready to cut when you wake up for breakfast. Kitchen smells of bread.
There you go.
Dogs will probably try to eat it, but sweet.
Right. So that, then we like you were saying about you're human, that show, and that's why podcasts are going really so huge at the moment. Like it's
and
just
being able to do it like in this format, like you're just 2 mates having a chat.
Yeah. And I came around to your Airbnb, like it's the computer and a microphone. It's
Precisely. I'm not. Yes, it's race week. I'm not wrapped up in cotton wool. I'm not staying in. I've not got a chef in. I've not got. Like I'm cooking myself. Like you're a normal human. Like anyone else, other people coming out to do this race would be. The setup would be no different.
Yeah.
Like it's
like if I describe it, it's your standard Airbnb.
Yeah, it
like
is a studio Airbnb.
With a beautiful lake.
Great view.
Yeah.
Great view. And good running from here as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better to the forest.
Yeah, it is better in the forest. You can sneak up onto the course though out the back.
Oh yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 2 roads.
Kind of.
2 roads down.
Yeah.
Not that anyone can see where I'm pointing, but
yeah, true.
But yeah, it's like you're human, like, and I haven't done one for a while, but like you'll do like a Q&A like on rest days. I normally do like a Q&A, and I'll probably spend like an hour on Instagram just answering questions. You probably get at least 100 people asking questions, and whether that's about like training or shoes or just like stuff. And I think like actually like opening up about it is so important. And like whenever people ask like, oh, how you doing, like the answer is always like, oh yeah, I'm really good. But actually being able to, people want to see that, people want to know like, I'm knackered, like I'm so tired, I'm at the end of a 4-week 250 plus Ks a week plus 10 hours of biking plus 2 strength and conditioning sessions and altitude, like I am knackered, like I feel horrendous. But people want to know that, like people want to see like the raw truth. And I think that's pretty much why I've been able to sort of get to the place that I am quite quickly is sort of with my social media, is because like, yes, I haven't got a massive following, but my following is so authentic and so interactive. Like everyone who follows me on social media, like, I think genuinely feels like they are on the same adventure and same journey that I'm on. And it's been people who were there at the beginning, like can't believe that we're here now. People who are joining now can't believe that only 2 years ago you weren't doing anything. And to be able to feel part of that journey, I think is such a special thing. And if it inspires one person to sort of get up and run or sign up to trail race, like that's amazing, because this is a sport that I love and a sport that I truly believe in, and it is going places. But also like why would someone buy a pair of Lecky poles as opposed to a pair of Salomon poles, or why would someone buy Garmin as opposed to a Sunto? And like I will say like I've tried every watch, and like yes, I'm now sponsored by Garmin, but that's because I genuinely used the product before. And if someone asks me, oh, what watch do you recommend, I'm not just saying, oh, I'd use a Garmin Fenix 6, this is I can give you a discount there, like, and I'm actually secretly wearing something else. Like, no, like genuinely, this is like I don't wear the Garmin sort of outdoors. I don't wear the Fenix watches because I don't like them. And I've told Garmin I don't like them. I'll tell people I don't like them. I wear the normal runner's watch. And this weekend I'll race with the normal runner's watch.
You got a 945.
945. And I think it's an amazing watch.
I got a 245.
And
I couldn't justify the extra cost because my wife and I both got them. And I was like, well, you know, I'm like $2,000. Like,
yes.
Garmin, if you're listening, I'm keen.
Yeah. Hashtag Garmin Australia. / New Zealand.
Yeah.
At Garmin Oceania.
Garmin, I tried them all as well.
Yeah.
I tried heaps, just to get a feel of it. And it's like, man, if you're the user interface, like, just go Garmin.
Yeah,
like,
it's super easy.
Out of the box.
And people want to know that. Like, we were fortunate enough to have been able to test 5 different brands of watches. Like, save someone else from having to do that. Sweet.
Yeah.
This is the one that I genuinely believe in. I genuinely trust him.
Yeah.
And then if you can put that on your social media in a natural way, not just like a really
yeah.
posed photo of your watch, but like, oh sweet, look at this mega work and I've just crushed, or you're just changing your watch really quickly because that's what you think you've got to do. And like, people can see through it, and like
now they can.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't, like, when social media was, like you said, contacting friends.
Yeah.
And people were slipping in your subconscious with like all that crap. And then now you
just see it straight away.
You're just like, they don't.
Just like, unfollow you.
You can kind of see the people are coming through, and then the brands are getting with them. Yeah. As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now I need to fit this brand. And do whatever.
Yeah. It's a crazy world, and I think just being able to do things naturally, people see it, and they're like, actually, this person's being honest. Sweet. Let's get on that.
Yeah. Well, we've gone an hour and a half. I'd say that's probably near the
8 o'clock.
Near the limit. Speaking of your social media, where I'll put the links in. Where are you most active?
Most active on Instagram. Tom Evans Ultra. Give me a message. I'll probably get back to you. Don't ask.
No dirty shorts.
Yeah, no dirty shorts. I keep them. And that's pretty much it. Instagram is what I'm focusing on a little bit more, because at the end of the day, like, I'm still a performance athlete. Like, I don't want to spend. I think I can get most sort of bang for my buck and get the most exposure with helping people and presenting my own brand through Instagram. So, and I don't want to, when I'm recovering, I want to recover. I don't want to spend heaps of time putting videos together, like editing videos for YouTube. Like, there may come a time in my career when I do that, but actually now, like, focusing on my performance and want to share that journey. And I think for me, the best interface to share is Instagram. Yeah,
sweet. Well, I'll put that in. Everyone can give you a follow. Otherwise, I got you a present for your birthday. Wait there, everybody. Wait there.
Everyone wait. This is exciting. He's getting a huge box out.
Yeah. No. So, I know you're a Red Bull athlete, but what I have here, people, is a can of V. So this is the New Zealand Red Bull. That's one you should try.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's the New Zealand version. And also Whittaker's Peanut Slab.
Sweet, I've not had one.
Yeah, have you heard of it?
Nope.
So Whittaker's is a New Zealand chocolate brand. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I saw it on Instagram as I was driving over here that it was your birthday. Because I messaged you that I was coming and I saw your story. So I stopped at the service station and I was like, what can I get? I need something Kiwi. And
there you go. Oh, thank you very much.
I figured you probably like energy drinks, and everyone loves chocolate.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. That'll be my pudding tonight.
Yeah, there you go. Happy
Sweet.
Birthday.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Sweet.
Alright, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Tom. I really appreciated how honest and open he was. Now, the winner of last week's training plan giveaway, all you had to do was share the podcast, tag us on Instagram in your stories. So that winner is Mitch Armstrong. Alright, Mitch, get in touch, get your training plan, and get started for 2020. I've also got in talks with a very cool, new, exciting sponsor, so I'm going to hold off to give that away. And until next time, everyone, happy training, have a good one.